Coming up, it's the hotness.
Who's got the hotness on the Broncos?
Ooh, that's a good one, Mace.
You know, Zach Wilson kind of had some hotness today, believe it or not.
He did. He had a good day. Courtland Sutton was the hotness today.
Courtland Sutton. Bo Nix had some moments. I mean, there was an interception in the one-on-ones. There was a back shoulder connection to Courtland Sutton in the one-on-ones.
I think Reese Taylor has had a better camp than.
Yeah, he's pushing. He did some good work in the special teams period today because they were working on downing punts, of course. One of my favorite things.
Of course, you're dialed in. That's for sure. It is orange and blue today. Cecil Lammey, Andrew Mason, and a newsy day for sure, Mace. When we talk about this team, Bo Nix is teaching guys on the field. We're going to get to that, but the news of the day, Kaden Stearns released. Are you curious about this timing of this?
Well, it's the whole thing of, let's give him a chance to get into somebody else's camp. I mean, how many times have we heard that over the years from different coaches? Like it's the spoonful of sugar to try to help the medicine go down, I think. We'll give him a chance to catch on. They did go through the process that they did with Randy Gregory last year to see if anyone would be interested in trading for him, but there isn't much of a market for a guy who's missed 30 games in his 3-year career, 30 of a possible 51, and very specifically has now missed, I believe it's 28 of his last 29 games.
That's bad, right?
That's bad because he had the hip, and then he had the injury this past year with the torn PCL. And as you and I have discussed, the injury history on him in terms of dealing with some kind of injury over the year, he only missed 2 games in his rookie season, but he has dealt with some kind of in-season injury, I believe going back to his sophomore season at Texas. So this is a 6-year pattern here. And what this also tells you, the move happening today, is they weren't relying on him, which was smart. You and I discussed that. Kaden Stearns, a nice contingency plan, but not somebody who can be a primary plan. Well, the primary plan is Brandon Jones and PJ Locke, and it was just a matter of figuring out whether any of the young guys that were also in there could do what they believe Kaden Stearns could as a backup, because odds are that number 3 safety is going to have to start at some point in a given year. At minimum, he's going to have to play in dime packages. And I think with Devin Key and JL Skinner, I think Devin Key flashed early in camp. Momentum seems to be with JL Skinner. Now he was really good in the scrimmage on Saturday. I think it's very telling that this decision comes after that Saturday practice, which I thought was JL Skinner's best work since he's been in Denver.
Who showed up and showed out, that's for sure. Now, we've got a couple of clips from Coach, one on Skinner specifically, but the one on cutting Stearns, listen to what he says about, like, well, it's partly him, but it's partly the other guys that we're mentioning here too.
Look, the depth, I visited with Kaden this morning, and I just told him, right now we felt like it was in the best interest of our team, and especially this early where he'll have a chance to either possibly sign with another team or possibly be traded. And part of it is the byproduct of some of these other guys that are playing ahead of him right now.
Yeah, some of those other guys are looking good, like Skinner making plays.
I like Skinner and like Key, who was on the practice squad last year and had some elevations. You're seeing it on special teams as well. And don't forget also, if you look over the horizon, again, for depth and mostly special teams, you expect Larry and Turner Yell back at some point this year, probably looking more like an in-season pup elevation. You can get him after 4 games if you keep him on the pup through the preseason and into the regular season. So looking at that whole scenario, it says something about the young guys, but also, Cease, I think it says something about the overall philosophy here going on, that this is a pretty dramatic instance of saying that we're going to lean into the young and unknown here. And it's wild to say that Caden Stearns is only a 4th-year guy. It's not like he's an old pro, but these things happen pretty quickly. Broncos have drafted safeties since Caden Stearns, right? And you want to get a look at more of those guys. The churn always keeps on going. It's why someone like Tyler Beatty at running back, while he's had a very good camp, I feel. I mean, when you've got Blake Watson coming in as a rookie, Audric Estime coming in as a rookie, those guys are at a younger end of the cycle and are probably going to get longer looks.
It's partly Kaden. It's partly the guys behind him. Mace, how much is it Vance Joseph's defense taking a more aggressive approach, the additions in the front 7? It's always rush and cover. And you need Justin Simmons when your rush isn't as great.
Mm-hmm.
Without Justin Simmons, without Caden Stearns, but with a stronger front 7 and more of an aggressive mindset, maybe they've decided, let the young guys go out there and make plays on the back end.
Yeah. And that's going to mean making some mistakes at full speed too. But it also means like you've got a different skill set that is going to be rewarded by this defense. And it's one that's going to reward aggression and attacking. And that was where JL Skinner was making his plays on Saturday, attacking into the box, diagnosing plays, and snuffing them out. It's him doing what he does best, using that 6'4" frame. And that's another thing. You can't coach his size.
Mm-hmm.
And he is relative to most safeties. Gosh, I can't believe I'm saying relative to. God.
Every day.
It is burrowing into my subconscious now. This is not good at all. You hear something so often and it's like one of those eels in Star Trek 2. It just goes through your ear and it wraps around your cerebral cortex, right?
There's something in my brain every day.
Well, yeah. I'll say this. I have picked up sayings from coaches I've covered over the years. I've got not my first rodeo, not my first barbecue. That's John Fox.
Skins on the wall.
Skins on the wall. We're fixing to find out. Gary Kubiak.
Yeah. Do your job.
Yeah. With Vic Fangio, some little, the one I use false positive because of course he offered the warning of a false positive, which actually turned out to be pretty accurate regarding Drew Lock. Mm-hmm. He was telling the story about John Forcade back in 1989 when he was in New Orleans. But I use oomph sometimes. If you don't remember, Vic would talk about oomph.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't get anything from Nathaniel Hackett, but he wasn't here long enough. And Jerry Rosberg, it's not really like sayings. It's just talking.
Diatribes.
Diatribes have some anger. It's with Jerry Rosberg. It was like a kind of mellow preacher almost, right? Up there. Jerry Rosberg gave sermons when he spoke to the press. I mean, I think there was the 12-minute opening statement that he had when he had his first press conference. But yeah, anyway, I'm going off on a tangent here. Point is, when you're around these coaches and you hear them day after day after day, certain things get, burrow their way inside. And for me, that's relative to. Sorry.
Before we leave the safety conversation, we're going to hear from Coach Payton talking about one JL Skinner.
Well, look, he's one of, not just the only one, he's one of a handful of these guys that he's smart. He really came on in the second half of last season. He came on in the kicking game, and we started seeing him on scout team offensively. So he's playing with confidence, and he's one of the younger guys that will be pushing, and he's just got to keep progressing.
Mm-hmm. They like what they've seen. They want to see more. Sounds fair.
Second time in the last few months that Sean Payton has mentioned what he did on the scout team in the back half of last year.
Very true.
And it could get tough for JL Skinner. There were points when he was a little bit down about how things were going, and he had some guys that kind of helped pick him up. PJ Locke did, Justin Simmons did as well. But the thing is, you go back to how they intentionally kept him on the roster when he clearly wasn't one of the 53 best players, but they kept him on because they believed in his potential. They kept Thomas Incoom on. They believed in his potential. He wasn't one of the best 53 last year. And what do we see? We see JL Skinner starting to make plays, running with the ones with Brandon Jones down. Thomas Incoom was getting some run up the depth chart as well. And once again, what he do today had another disruptive pressure. It's just what he's doing on a daily basis right now.
Sith Lords are our specialty.
Oh gosh,
rushing the passer is Thomas Incoom especially. But we really did you have to? Gosh, we talked to JL.
That was a painful line. I'm sorry. And
there were a lot of painful. It's George Lucas, maybe. There's a lot of painful lines.
What was it? Harrison Ford said, "You can write this bleep, George, but you can't say
Can't say this bleep." Although if George's ever at Broncos training camp, I would love that. But anyway, we talked to JL last year. I never got the sense he was frustrated. When we would ask him, like, why aren't you playing? And he's like, well, they're just trying to learn. And he never seemed to show that frustration that sometimes can creep in with guys who know they can play. They're just not playing yet. Well,
he talked about it. He talked about being down and having teammates pick him up. I think when we talked with him, especially at the end of the year, he was kind of at peace about it, and he knew he was about to play. But there were a couple of moments where he thought he was going to get a jersey at other times. He only got the jersey twice. There were a couple of moments he thought he was going to, and then it didn't work out. And I think it did kind of he did need some pick me up from everybody else.
Yep, that's true. That's true. We got the chat room chiming in, and Roy brings up our next subject.
Yes.
What's your opinions on Eyioma Uwazurike coming back? We've got some audio and we've got some thoughts, Mace.
Yeah. It's just easier to call him Enyi. Enyi Uwazurike. It's intriguing because the skill set is a potentially premium skill set because he got on the radar as a very efficient and effective interior pass rusher at Iowa State. Another thing that he can do, and we know how this team loves its special teamers, another thing he did really well in college is block field goal attempts. Like, he is a good rusher up the middle on place kicks. So those are two skill sets that if they can manifest into something here, you have something useful. Could he, even though he's a second year guy because he missed last year, he might be somebody we're talking about being on the 53 that isn't necessarily among the best 53 right now, but that they want to keep turning the page with because there are some attributes to his game and the push that you can get from the interior that if you can hone them right, you have someone who's a very useful player.
Much needed in today's NFL. We'll play what Coach said about Uwazurike and also his attributes. But Mace, I will say this. Middle pressure makes every quarterback look mortal. And when he's been through the crucible, football was taken away from him. I would anticipate he would bounce back with a fervor because he lost this game. He could not play ever again. If the NFL wanted to be hard asses, he could not play football ever again.
Because it was, like, by definition, it was a lifetime suspension.
Exactly.
Gambling. Now, he was eligible to apply for reinstatement after 1 year, which he did. But again, that got held up because there was another investigation going on in Arapahoe County.
Right.
So that had to be cleared up before the NFL would say yes. Now, effectively, these gambling suspensions when they've been given out over the years in the NFL they generally work out to 1 year suspensions, going all the way back to the 1960s, right? There's a long history of this, and there's a history of this because the NFL has always been understandably persnickety about the potential impropriety that comes with gambling, particularly if the gambling involves games that you're a part of that with your team, whether you're playing or not. I think he's pretty thankful for the opportunity. The question is now, where is he in terms of his skill set? How much rust is he going to have to shake off? The Broncos, like Sean Payton said, they were able to kind of be in touch with him remotely, and kind of they have a sense that he's in shape. When I saw him run onto the field today, he didn't, he physically he didn't look lacking, so that's a positive sign. But the proof is going to be in the pudding when he actually gets out there at full speed, full pads, and we see what he has. And really, in terms of having a real good glimpse of that, I'm not sure we're going to get that this week. I think maybe we may be talking about next week before we really start to get a sense of where he is.
Right. And here's what Coach had to say about Uwazurike.
Yeah, he's young. Remember, I only had that mini camp, and never the full training camp, but he's a young player we drafted. And look, and he's handled this well. He took full responsibility for it. We're in that period of time where there's a lot of mistakes being made relative to the gambling and the gambling policy. And I think the league and the communication that they provided with him, we're grateful for. Ownership here, I mean, he was out a year, and so our job now is to make sure that we're slow to get him ready back because he's missed quite a bit. But he was very remorseful, and I think that played a big part of it. I think he understands certainly the mistake he made, and he's really appreciative to be back here with this team.
I like what he said there.
Yeah,
really appreciative.
I do too. Really appreciative. I think the other person who should be on the other end of the appreciation from any Uwazurike is Harvey Steinberg. If I'm ever in trouble, I don't care what it costs. I want to have Harvey Steinberg because what happened, I don't know how closely you followed the stuff with which he was charged in Iowa, and they were able to kind of that was able to get dropped because the obtaining of evidence was researched to be in violation of constitutional rights.
Hey, all I know is it was an alleged ring.
Harvey's good, man.
That's what he gets paid for.
Yeah, like he's been representing Broncos when they've been getting in trouble for what, like 30 years now. I mean, this is
a long time.
I don't know the Broncos without Harvey Steinberg being somewhere in the orbit when you get in trouble. I mean, better call Saul, better call Harvey.
Right. Saul good, man. Better than Breaking Bad.
Yeah.
A
lot of people will say that. A lot of people will say that.
Yeah, and Breaking Bad might be the best show in television history, but Better Call Saul is more of a slow burn.
Yes,
but I appreciate that slow burn, and I love the character. The character.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, as far as like it's in the very elite class of spinoffs, right?
Yeah.
Better Call Saul, Frasier. I'd have to, maybe a couple of others out there. So
Joni Loves Chachi.
No.
No, on Joni Loves Chachi?
No, that was also Joni Loves Chachi, maybe the worst TV theme song ever.
Perhaps, yeah.
Yes.
We're going back.
That's where it's sunk. Yeah. Yeah, we're just going to give you more references that
nobody understands.
Nobody under the age of 45 gets. Yeah, that's what we're here for.
You remember Underdog? How about we talk about Bo Nix and Bo Nix teaching players? We've got
that's relevant.
Yes. Adam
That's
Troutman's talking
really
about the
relevant.
leadership of Bo Nix. And then today, I'm just going to play the clip. Jaleel McLaughlin said something from your question I think is quite significant.
Oh man, he's very mature, very mature. I would say he's teaching me things as well. So I think that, that's just a testament of who that guy is in Bo. And, he's a hard worker, focused, laser sharp. So it's fun. It's fun back there with him.
Like, what is he teaching you?
I won't go into specifics, but it's a lot of different things in my route running that he's been teaching me.
Yeah.
Yep. Get to this spot.
Mm-hmm. Be
I like
in the
it.
spot. You know who used to be really technical and persnickety with what he taught and what we try to convey on our running routes for running backs?
18.
Peyton Manning. Yep.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's why CJ warmed up to him, because he knew he wanted to be the smartest guy back there so Peyton would
Yes.
like him.
Mm-hmm.
It's a smart move business-wise for CJ. It was real smart to do that.
Well, and here's the thing. If you're a quarterback, you want to know that there's something that's always going to be there. I mean, this is your check down. This is your safe play. This is your bailout, right? So you've got to know the running back's going to be in the correct spot. It's also, when you're talking about pass protection, you've got to know the running back's going to identify it. Either way, it works best when the running back is kind of an extension of the quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
But still, anytime you're talking about a rookie coming in and teaching a veteran player, that's interesting. I mean, actually, it's funny. I kind of have a little bit of a flashback to one of the reasons why the Broncos drafted Dalton Reisner in 2019 was to kind of help Garett Bolles get up to speed there in year 3. I think it was a different set of circumstances, but what we see here, whether it's he's working with Jaleel McLaughlin, helping him run better routes out of the backfield. He's manipulating the safeties. He's identifying blitzes at the line of scrimmage, by the way. And
changing protections.
Changing protection. By the way, a huge thing. Like, you want to look at a quarterback who struggled with that last year. Look at Bryce Young in Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's that. In fact, basically gave Minnesota its first win last year in Charlotte because he didn't identify Harrison Smith off the edge pre-snap. Basically, a very obvious blitz. Didn't see it. Didn't slide the protection. Got drilled. Fumble. Scoop and score. Other direction. So what we see this combination of things that shows that in terms of the cerebral aspects of quarterbacking, Bo Nix is not an ordinary rookie. And you got to think that Sean Payton's really excited about that. I mean, certainly when he was talking about Bo Nix on Saturday and saying he has some Drew Brees traits in terms of avoiding sacks, I mean, this is starting to become as subtle as a siren that all roads are leading to Bo Nix perhaps faster than we expected.
And Bo Nix is putting in the work. He's getting it done, and he's being what he was as advertised. Yeah. And I think that's very good because there's no like, oh, I guess it was the Oregon offense. No, it was him. It was him.
It can be both.
Sure.
Like you can have a good offense and get the right guy in there.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't think it's one or the other. Now, it reached an exceptionally high level there, and you can say that Bo Nix did have plenty to do with that. But it's exciting. It's exciting to watch, even though I do think perception-wise, there are a lot of people that are kind of waiting for those splash moments, whereas it's more just kind of like a clock ticking very consistently.
Yep, and getting better and better with each passing moment. Patrick asked the question on everybody's mind. When do you think Sean Payton will name QB1? Well, he kind of gave us some clues, at least for the Colts game, because it is a game preparation week.
Yeah, like what do you think those clues are? I'm curious.
He said Tuesday or Wednesday.
Okay.
And then when pushed on that, he was like, yeah, you'll find out Tuesday or Wednesday. Well, if it's Wednesday, that's Bo's day. Because Jarrett should get first team reps tomorrow, right? When they're back in pads. And then Wednesday, Bo would be quarterback.
Well, if you're doing kind of a mimicking of preparation, Sunday game, wouldn't it be Wednesday, Thursday? Mm-hmm. Now, Friday is the practice that, as they say, they're going to go Broncos versus scout, which means basically first team versus third team. The third team becomes your scout team. Mm-hmm. Whereas what they call these practices, when it's 1 versus 1, 2 versus 2, they call them Broncos on Broncos. So that's kind of interesting as well. Like, okay, who has the first snap when you actually maybe start doing a little bit of game prep? You think it'll be Stidham then?
I'm not going to be offended if it's Stidham. I honestly think it'll be Stidham just as kind of a, here's your start.
Incumbency has its privileges, even though to call him an incumbent is a stretch because he only started 2 games last year. I mean,
right. Yeah. So
more
I'm
like
ready
he's the
for
holdover rather than the incumbent. He's the holdover.
Sure. I'm ready for anything when it comes to naming the starter. So,
of course, the other thing that happens with that is your subsequent preseason game is against Green Bay, but it comes after a scrimmage. So next Friday.
Yeah, we're within a couple of weeks of knowing. And even if Bo Nix is not the starter week 1, I'm not going to lose my mind. I want 12 games. I want 17 games. So name him the starter. But it's looking, the separation is happening. And it's looking like Bo Nix will be the guy. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Gage asked a question like, Gage, you know what I would say to that? I'd be like, what's my name?
Am I going to eat at St. Elmo's in Indy? I may eat next door to St. Elmo's, which is the restaurant that has the same kitchen as St. Elmo's. And that's Harry and Izzy's, the restaurant that Peyton Manning owns. And yes, you can get the shrimp cocktail there. And yes, I will have the shrimp cocktail. I always do. That
thing bites you. It bites you. I sat across the table from you. That thing bites you.
Stings the nostrils. Clears them out. They say the whole thing is that it clears your sinuses, and I can attest to that. It does. And I could say maybe my sinuses actually need some clearing on a consistent basis. So yeah, I'll have that. But yeah, I have my Indianapolis traditions. You know, Cease, I have spent, and probably the same for you because you've been to a bunch of combines. I've spent 3.5 months of my life in downtown Indianapolis. It adds up over the years.
You get your favorite spots, right? You kind of know the lay of the land. You don't get lost anymore. You know where to go. You know the shortcuts.
It's one of the things I like about it. Like I know, I know how to get from A to B. I know how far I have to go. Like the hotel I'm staying at. It's a great thing. I don't have to rent a car on this trip. I just go down, I stay downtown and haul my stuff around from the hotel to the stadium and all that. It's good.
Yeah,
it's good. But yeah, the St. Elmo shrimp cocktail is is part of it. Also, you and I added walking around going by is it Lau Miller's, the pub over there.
Is it Locke Miller's?
Locke Miller's,
very famous pub.
The pub where the Russell Wilson trade went down.
The napkin.
The negotiation on a napkin. So it's got kind of an infamous place in Broncos history now. Oh, gosh.
Why are you trading a franchise quarterback? Oh, now we know why.
I get where George Payton was coming from, though.
Desperation?
A little bit. And you think, okay, the giving everything, like, oh, you can have your coach on site. Oh, you can, all your social media team, and just give them the run of the place. Yeah, that was desperation. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right, Mace.
Well, let's play do we play the Troutman clip? Let's play that real quick.
You want to play the Troutman clip?
Yes, about Bo Nix as well. There's some insight here too.
Here we go.
He's doing great. I think the biggest thing with him, people talk about all the games he started in college, obviously. Like, I think that truly means something. You see it in the way he commands a huddle and the way he steps up into the pocket where he can find his voids and his throwing lanes. Like, that's an experience thing. And a lot of guys coming out might not have that because they played in 20, 30 games. Those played, I think, like 60, 61, whatever it is. So, I mean, he's obviously been doing very well.
Find your voids. I think that's very important. And we see Nix do it every day.
Every day. Knowing what not to do before you figure out what to do. Like that's part of it. I think maybe with Bo Nix, there's going to be some of figuring out how that this is what you do to avoid the big mistake that can lose a game and then graduate to the point where you're winning games.
Yes.
Which is why the arc of this team, if he starts week 1, may be interesting. I hope there isn't a great deal of panic if the team starts 0-3 with Bo Nix. And it wouldn't surprise me if it did. I don't think Bo Nix will panic. I think he's got a really good, even-keeled sense of things. I don't think the team will panic. But Broncos country is in a very skittish state, respectfully speaking.
Yeah, I mean, they want to get back on the winning track, and it's there. It'll be there. You just need to give it some time, and be patient with that. Know that it'll take time, and then be ready for it.
I think so.
It feels good. It feels different out there as well. There's not the awkwardness of Russell Wilson.
It feels like there is a more unified sense of direction, team and coaching staff. It feels like you've got everybody rowing in the same direction now. And also, you let things play out with Russell Wilson, so it's very much you're playing, for it to maximize that moment. And while I think the Broncos will be better than a lot of pundits have them, I do feel like it's more of a long-term focus now. Like when there was that quote from Sean Payton when he talked with NFL Network and said the thing about, telling Greg Penner, hey, 3 or 4 years from now, this draft class is going to look really, really good. I think there's some of that too, like an understanding that this is kind of process based. And hey, when you cut Caden Stearns, who was in the final year of his deal, so like, what was the future on him? You're thinking long term. You're thinking about, okay, is this player going to help us succeed in a year or two? So to me, like if you a 7-10 season, and you figure out if that Bo Nix is the right quarterback, that's a successful season, and I think positions you to be a wild card type of team in 2025. There are things that can happen that I think will, even in a losing season, if that's what the Broncos have, that'll show you're well on your way to your goal.
Steps, progress, moving forward, and being also in the moment. Happiness is not a future endeavor, Mace. I find myself telling myself that a lot.
Not a future endeavor?
Happiness is about now. Be happy that Bo Nix is here now. Like, you don't think like, and then this is going to happen, I'm going to be happy. No, be happy now. You got Nix now. Let's see what he can do now.
I'm happy that there's a direction.
That's definitely one. You can feel that out there.
And it's not that they're, the Russell Wilson trade in 2022, that was a direction. It proved to be a wrong direction, but it was a direction. I look back at like 2021, and I feel like the only direction was the coaches were trying to survive. Because while Teddy Bridgewater was the better quarterback, and he had a solid season, it was a solid season. What was the end point? Like, where could that get you? If they were the Bridgewater and Drew Locke were close, and I said if they're close, they should start Locke because he was younger and had some upside. But I can also see why Vic Fangio didn't trust Drew Lock, the whole contact tracer incident of 2020, and then lying about it to cover it up. That's,
Don't listen to Blake
absolute no-no.
Bortles, allegedly. And
Yeah.
coaches love Teddy. Look at how Sean talks about him.
Yeah. Well, because Teddy, he's not the most gifted of quarterbacks, but you feel like he's smart and you feel like you get everything out of him. Like every drop is out there with Teddy. And he hits his marks. Like the coach tells you 4-step drop, he drops 4 steps. Like there's a dependability with him.
Mm-hmm. Dependability is what we are here for, and we're here also to talk Broncos and have you help us out on YouTube. But how can people do that, Andrew Mason?
Like,
comment,
share,
subscribe,
hit that notification bell
so that you
never
miss
a vid.
vid. That's right. He's Andrew Mason. You follow him on all the socials at Mace Denver. I'm at Cecil Lammey saying OBT's BFD. Thank you very much for watching. Stay tuned. And would you please, as always, stay frosty.